Díomh agus fóilte go airheads.
On a bháin bhuacail Tom.
I'm out now. That's as much as I got. Hello and welcome to Airheads, a not so serious look at the serious business of royal rumours, gossip and gowns. I'm Tom and I just attempted speaking Irish.
And I'm Maeve, and could you tell that Tom was practicing that the whole way here from the airport?
We have been on holiday and we weren't going to do an episode, but so much happened and we found ourselves talking about it all the time anyway, so we decided on the plane we had to do an emergency episode.
Please forgive us if this is a little bit rougher and not up to the usual quality that you expect from Airheads. But we just had to get into this because obviously this was such a big week. Prince William and Kate Middleton visited Ireland for the first time. This is so exciting to me as an Irish person and to Tom as a person with many connections to Ireland, who lived in Ireland for many years.
Is Brala Marin?
Oh, here we go again. Hola, boss. But Tom and I were watching very closely. I remember when I lived in Ireland and whenever anyone would announce a royal tour, whenever Charles and Camilla would come, people would say, oh, for God's sake, like, when are Kate and Will going to come? They're the ones that everybody wants to see. So there was so much excitement around this, especially because it was the first royal visit to Ireland since Brexit. And that was very explicitly coming from the Cambridge's team. That was the purpose of this trip, was to help to forge and remind everybody of the bond between Britain and Ireland and to ease those tensions. And, you know, that's what the royals are so well known for and are so good at, that kind of soft diplomacy. And boy, oh boy, was Kate prepared. We got a pretty enthusiastic look from Kate straight away. Getting off that Aer Lingus plane, you couldn't tell, was it the stewardess? Oh no, it's Kate. Here she comes in her
3 shades of green at least.
Straight off her shift with Aer Lingus. If you haven't seen the Aer Lingus uniforms, Kate's coat was so reminiscent of very classic. It was that exact shade of green that is so associated with the airline. But, you know, it wasn't just one shade of green. No.
Nope.
It was actually many, many shades of green, because she wore the green coat, Catherine Walker, her favourite, with a new dress from Alessandra Rich, another British designer, green print, so you had many, many kinds of green in there. And then, you know, black shoes aren't going to do, has to be green shoes. And if that wasn't enough, let's just top it off with a green clutch, because I love getting off the airplane with my clutch bag and letting somebody else take my suitcase. And then on top of that, she had no hat, unfortunately. People were very excited about a hat, but instead we got a hat band, the padded headband that she has become known for now. And Will had a green tie on as well.
Other than being green, what did all these things have in common, Maeve?
Well, they certainly weren't made by anyone Irish. They were all British designers. Now, this is not unusual for Kate. You know, as we saw on the Pakistan tour as well, she had that dress that was a tribute to a traditional Pakistan design, but it was by a British designer. So, you know, I wasn't expecting straight away that she'd come out with an Irish design, but the fact that she was wearing so many different shades of green.
Does this count as a tribute to your national dress, Maeve?
That's what some people were arguing with me about when I mentioned it to some non-Irish people online, and instantly regretted it because people started telling me how much of an honour it was to Irish people to have Kate wearing not just one shade of green, but in fact, you know, 30 or 40 shades. And that just made it a much more significant and powerful tribute, which I disagree with. I think it was totally overkill, and I don't think I'm alone in that. Well, like the past few days we've basically been with my family, but from speaking to some of my friends as well in Ireland, the general consensus was like, whoa, like, did somebody tell her, you know?
Have you heard that they are quite into green?
It's like you said, it was basically like all the garb you need for your Paddy's Day weekend.
Yeah.
But with £17,000 earrings.
Yeah. So not such a great honour for the Irish people, but the the Middletons. The Cambridges were really honoured because they got to meet Broad.
Broad and Shoda are Ireland's first dogs. They are the Bernese Mountain Dogs of the president, Michael D. Higgins, and his wife, Sabina Higgins. They live in Oros and Uachtaráin with Michael D. and Sabina. Shoda, sadly, was nursing a sore paw, so Kate and Will did not get to meet Shoda. You may remember seeing Broad and Shoda before, like if you have any interest in the Irish president, which lots of people do, but also because Meghan and Harry met Broad and Shoda when they were visiting in 2018. But Kate and Will were instantly charmed, as everyone is, by these enormous, joyful dogs. Kate seemed particularly enchanted by Broad. I love the pictures of them petting Broad, so cute. Also, absolutely love how Sabina Higgins greeted Kate and Will by saying, "Delighted to welcome you. You've had lots of exciting things happening in your family." Which is so good, so funny.
While they were there, they also rang the peace bell
3 times, and then Michael D and Sabina clapped, and they went inside and had some lemon drizzle cake and some tea.
Sounds pretty good.
You know, pretty strenuous activity already. They also visited the Garden of Remembrance, and then they went to the government buildings to meet with the current Taoiseach. Like, we don't currently have a government in Ireland because we just had an election and they're still figuring that out. But
that's why Will and Kate decided to take their chance.
I mean, Leo must have been thrilled. As we've talked about before on this podcast, Leo Varadkar loves the royals.
Oh yeah.
He was very excited to meet them before, and you could tell he was delighted, and he even had his partner, Matthew Barrett.
He made sure he scored an invite.
I mean, wouldn't you? Fucking sign me up for that one. Adored the whole exchange that they had. Will and Kate signed the visitors book. Then they went inside in government buildings, and some genius sat Will next to this portrait of Michael Collins, and we got this incredible photograph of Will kind of looking up at the portrait pensively, maybe wondering, who is this? No, I'm joking. I'm sure Will knows who Michael Collins is, but possibly feeling a little bit uncomfortable with the weight of all that bearing down on him. And then at the same time listening to Matthew Barrett talking about the children of Lear, telling them this Irish legend, and Will seemingly replying by telling a story about helicopters.
He just fell back on something that was total in his wheelhouse, comfort zone. What can I talk about for hours? Helicopters.
They did also talk about Brexit, and apparently they talked about Brexit as well with Michael D and Sabina, and they talked about climate change as well, but those aren't the details that we're most interested in.
And obviously the next stop on your Paddy's Day weekend is the Guinness storehouse. So still clad in green. Kate turned up in a different green dress this time. It was by a vampire's wife. It was sort of sparkly dark green, and she went for some cheaper earrings, got some from Accessorize this time.
I actually love this dress on Kate. The Vampire's Wife is such a cult brand right now. Royal watchers probably recognise it from Beatrice wearing that very similar shade of green dress from the same brand to Ellie Goulding's wedding last year, and she's worn it before on a number of occasions, and so has fucking every other fashionable person. It's such a trendy dress, and they basically do this one style, the kind of prairie style with the ruffles on the sleeve and the hem, and I'm sure it would be an absolutely dazzling dress to see in person. It doesn't really photograph as well as it does when you actually see it. It's so shimmery, and it's such gorgeous rich colour that I'm sure it would have made like a killer impact in person, but coming off of all that green earlier, it didn't have quite the same impact.
So she should have had more greens.
I think, if she'd also worn a green clutch,
bolero,
but she actually had a glittery clutch instead, and sadly no bolero. But anyway, I thought it was a really nice dress. That was probably my favourite thing that she wore when she was there. Will toned it down as well. He did not wear the green suit that I was expecting for the evening, but he did actually speak a little bit of Irish. If you haven't seen this clip, you should definitely look it up because Will's facial expressions are amazing in it. I don't think I've ever seen him move his face so much. It's very funny. He starts by saying Adini Ushla, which basically means like gentlefolk or like ladies and gentlemen, but it's like a kind of concise way of saying that, like a way of addressing everybody there. And he pointed out that they were following in the Queen's footsteps like any tourist by visiting the Guinness factory she visited in 2011. And he said, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, it is not often that I find myself following the Queen to a pub, which went down fabulously. Everybody loves that joke. And then he ended the speech by raising his pint of Guinness, his perfectly poured pint, and saying sláinte, which is the Irish way of saying like cheers.
Well, a joke that didn't go down quite as well was his joking around with some emergency workers, where he said, I bet everyone's like, I've got coronavirus, I'm dying. And you're like, no, you've just got a cough.
I mean, like, it's such a mild joke, and I feel like if you are an emergency worker, you're probably like, hell yeah, buddy. Like, exactly. And it's very relatable. And, you know, Will also worked as a first responder, and, you know, again, like, he's relating to people there, but he went on a bit too much.
Yeah.
He said, it does seem quite dramatic about coronavirus at the moment. Is it being a little hyped up, do you think, by the media, which has like shades of Donald Trump? Kind of wish he hadn't said that. And he then joked, by the way, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge are spreading coronavirus. Sorry, we're keeping an eye on that, so do tell us if we need to stop.
You need to stop.
I know, it's like, they're not the worst jokes, they're not like the most offensive jokes you could make, but it is a very sensitive situation. Like, their kids' school had a case of coronavirus, and, you know, as somebody who is a statesman, I don't know if it's very statesmanlike to be making jokes like that.
And, like, you know, we don't know what's going to happen with coronavirus as well. Like,
I know.
You could, like, look back and just think, like, oh, Jesus, why did I say that?
I'm definitely way too superstitious to make a joke like that. But at the same time, like my family, like, everybody is making these kind of jokes at the moment. It's not like he's totally out of line, but you do have to think, like, what if Meghan Markle were to make a joke like that? How would that be treated? Very badly, I would imagine. But as well as that, we got some fantastic pictures of Kate holding a pint of Guinness as if it weighed 10 tons. And as well as that, she met Sinead Burke, the Irish disability activist and fashion commentator and just general style icon. Sinead was wearing this fabulous Victoria Beckham outfit, and she said that she spoke to Kate about the V&A, of which Kate is royal patron, and Sinead was talking to her about accessibility and making museums more accessible. And yeah, hopefully, like, that might be something that Kate could do some work on.
Day 2, we get a colour change in Kate's wardrobe. She wore this very striking white coat, maybe off-white, from Reiss. This is one that she's had since 2008, so just showing us that she takes care of her clothes.
Not a stain on that white coat.
No. And oh my god, this was possibly the detail that I disliked even more than her 3,000 Shades of Green. It was the shamrock earrings that were by a British brand. So these were by Daniela Draper. And have you ever seen anything NAFA?
I mean, I don't mind that. It does seem like the kind of thing that she would do in another country, like wearing something with the national flower or something as a tribute to that country. But the idea that it was by a British designer, for someone like me who is very sensitive to any colonial undertones or overtones, the idea of wearing a British designed piece of jewellery representing the national symbol of Ireland is like very on the nose.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of other people really did like that. So, you know, some people thought it was a nice tribute. Maybe my sensibilities are just too heightened in this instance. They visited the Jigsaw National Centre for Youth Mental Health in Temple Bar, and they talked to some people there who said that Kate was amazing and they really liked talking to her, and Will, I suppose, but they really focused on Kate, as did everyone for this whole tour. And then they went to Kildare, where Tom and I were, although we were in different parts of Kildare, sadly. Unfortunately, we did not go to the Londis and Prosperous that day. They were actually visiting Savannah House, which is a local residential facility run by the charity Extern. But while they were there, they had to go out and stock up on some provisions to make a vegetable soup, which brought them to the local Londis, one of Kildare's very finest attractions. And I've been trying to find out what they bought there, because I'm sure everybody's going to go out and buy it. But as much as I could get was butter, brown bread and leeks. Though I did see a picture of Will holding a Kerrygold butter.
Oh yeah, well, sure they wouldn't be allowed to buy anything else. But yeah, the area outside the shop had apparently been cordoned off since the morning. So this wasn't quite the surprise visit that I think we were led to believe.
Although it was definitely my favourite part of the whole tour, because, you know, as much as visiting the Guinness storehouse and pouring a pint and all that kind of stuff is what people around the world would think of as a quintessentially Irish activity, is there anything more Irish than going to the Londis
to get Kerrygold
brown bread and Kerrygold butter? Tom, is there?
There isn't. We also got an insight into their home life, because they were doing some cooking, obviously this vegetable soup, but also playing a lot of ping pong, taking advantage of the fact that they were away from Lupo, who apparently, according to Kate, eats all the ping pong balls at home.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Haven't heard of Lupo in a while, so appreciate any reference. Also got some details on Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, when Will was asking if... Did I say that wrong?
No, I'm just laughing about this. It's so funny.
When Will was asking about Shrove Tuesday, Pancake Tuesday, and whether people had made pancakes, and he said he had tried, but that his kids don't really like pancakes. Very suspicious.
Creepy. This is like when you find out that the souls of a 1,000-year-old being have been trapped inside a child.
From there to County Meath, where they visited a Teagasc farm, a research farm that specialises in sustainable farming. Very big interest in Ireland at the moment, in Irish farming. And while they were there, they were given a piece of 5,000-year-old bog oak.
It's a pretty good present.
And from there to the carefully scheduled romantic walk segment of the tour, where they took a stroll on Howth Cliff.
And we finally got Kate wearing something Irish.
Oh yeah, she changed for this part. She wore a Dubarry jacket, which is an Irish brand. Probably better known for their boat shoes, their deck shoes, which every secondary school student will have worn pretty much exclusively from the ages of 13 to 18, including me. This was a green kind of utility style jacket. Honestly, I was a little bit disappointed by this. Like, you know, it makes so much sense for Kate to wear a Dubarry jacket, but it was so similar to other jackets that we've seen her wear before that it seemed like really unnecessary. Like, why does she need to have so many of these similar? Like, it wasn't that different from her wax Barber jacket that we've seen her wear before.
Yeah.
She also wore a Barber shirt from their collaboration with Alexa Chung, Pussy Bow shirt, and her go-to, the Penelope Chilvers boots. So, 2 more British brands.
They had an evening reception at the Museum of Literature, which I thought was a great stop for them to do. I had a lot of people when they went straight to the Guinness Storehouse being like, why don't they go to the Writers' Museum or the Museum of Literature?
Yeah.
So this was a good one, a good place for them to hit up. Kate wore vintage Oscar de la Renta, and
you're just gonna say it like that. You're not gonna talk about this like pretty major moment in Kate's style history.
Go for it.
I mean, this dress was such a surprise one, it wasn't green, so that was immediately a shock. But then at the same time, it was so 80s. Like, it was vintage, which is great. Obviously, given how often we see these women in brand new clothes, it's really nice to see them repurposing or reusing or, wearing vintage clothes, and it's so much more sustainable to do that. But wow, I was not expecting this kind of a look from Kate. It was very much what we refer to as Princess Diana cosplay, in terms that it had that ruffled kind of pie crust collar and the polka dots. She wore so many polka dots while she was in Ireland. She had the polka dot blouse, two polka dot dresses. But this also was in this very vivid purple colour, gorgeous colour. Love when she wears those very vibrant colours. And again, love that it was vintage, but not sure if she really pulled it off.
Yeah, I think there's like one or two photos in which it looks good, I think. But then there's so many more photos where I'm like, it just doesn't quite work. Like,
it is the kind of dress where you have to have a little bit of irony about it, I think. You have to be like a Chloe Sevigny or a Natasha Lyonne or someone like that who brings a little something extra to it, where I don't know if Kate carried it off as well as you would have hoped.
But it's just as well she dressed up because they got to see a first edition of Ulysses.
I know. Like, how many times do you think Kate has read Ulysses?
More times than Will.
You think she had to give him like a Cliff Notes summary
definitely
on the way in case anybody asked him his favourite moments from Ulysses? Irish people do that all the time, by the way. Anyway, Will gave his much ballyhooed speech about the bond between Britain and Ireland. He sort of coyly referred to Brexit in saying, as we look ahead to some changes in our relationship, which is, to me, a very amusing way of talking about the fraught union.
And then other than that, he kind of stuck to well-worn paths by quoting the Queen twice.
I thought this was like a really weird play, like very safe. Obviously, the Queen's visit in 2011 was such a historic moment, and people were very apprehensive about it, and there was a lot of anxiety about how it was going to go down and what she was going to say and whether she was going to acknowledge, all the history. And she did, and it was very well received, and clearly Will was like, well, I'll just repeat all those things. I thought it was very, like, it would make sense to say one line from the Queen's speech, but two was like kind of a strange move, I thought.
Yeah.
The first was when he quoted her saying, "Our islands have experienced more than their fair share of heartache and turbulence." And then he also said that she spoke of the need to be able to bow to the past and not be bound by it. So, he could have got his own speechwriters to come up with something to move the conversation on a little bit rather than rehashing the...
It does chime with my personal view of what Will is like, which is like, just do the bare minimum.
I mean, maybe, but this is such an important trip and something that Irish people were so excited about, to have Will and Kate there for the first time. And, it was rapturously received over here. I think the Irish were a little bit more tepid in their reception.
I mean, are the Irish ever going to really like this member of the royal family saying bow to the past?
The Taoiseach, Simon Coveney, also revealed that his three daughters had written letters to George and Charlotte and Louis, and he said, "I hope they will crack a smile, as I can assure you they do not comply with the protocols of the customary way to write to the royal family." Will they get response?
So on the third day, they went to Galway, which is the European capital of culture this year, and Kate got out the green again. She was in a Susanna polka dot dress with black belt and boots and a khaki coat.
This was such a weird choice. This coat we've seen before, it's that kind of military style Alexander McQueen coat. I think it's quite a nice coat. It makes absolutely no sense to have that shade of green with this shade of green.
Yeah.
Only adding to her 800 shades of green that she has seen as her goal for this tour. So I just thought it was such a weird move.
All British again.
Yeah, God, yeah. And the shamrocks were out again in the earrings. Probably Will's best moment from this tour was when he did some absolutely impressive juggling.
Oh, it was stellar work.
I was blown away by this.
Clearly he spent the time when he should have been writing a new speech, practicing his juggling.
Like, weirdly good at juggling, but only with the 3 balls. Once they brought in the 4th ball, it all fell apart. But I did like that moment. Also liked a little bit of insight that Kate gave into Princess Charlotte, that apparently she's really into gymnastics. She's doing cartwheels, handstands, everything.
Bloody hell.
Double back handspring. Let's see it, Charlotte. Also really looking forward to Prince George's acoustic version of God Save the Queen on guitar. He is reportedly learning to play the guitar. I will follow this with interest.
Yeah, I bet this is something else that's going to go nowhere.
They went to a pub, Tig Coily, and they had a little trad session in there, which I'm sure Kate and Will were loving.
And George was probably really annoyed that he missed.
And then there's a really nice video that I've been trying to find again that I saw of Kate and Will standing outside the pub, and there was tons of people there to meet them, and they thought they didn't have any time to do a walkabout because they had been delayed that morning due to bad weather. But then Kate finds out that actually they do have time, and she bolts towards the barriers and starts like rapidly shaking hands. It's a very endearing moment, very eager, nice to see. And from there, then, can you believe it? The very first ever royal visit to a GA club. Kate and Will went to the Salt Hill Knocknacarra GAA club to watch some of the teams playing Gaelic football and hurling, and Kate had a shot at some camogie, and she was pretty fucking good.
She was great, and, she knew it.
Oh, we got some stellar reaction shots. People always talk about Kate's sports faces. These were some all-timers.
I mean, I have to just give her respect for that, because there's no way in hell I could pull off anything like
I know, like I guess we kind of give Kate a hard time sometimes with her speeches, that she's not so great at public speaking. I'm sure she'd be the first person to say that. People know when they are and they aren't good at public speaking, and she's come on a long way in that. But it astonishes me how easy she is with doing sports in public.
Yeah.
When some people say that public speaking is the kind of thing that is, people fear it more than death. To me, having to play camogie in front of people is something that I fear far more than death.
Yeah.
And it is astonishing that she can just do it and also be so good at it and make it look like it's nothing at all.
Yeah. So a lot of respect for that, but a lot less respect for her choice of outfit, because she wore orange.
I mean, I guess it was more of a coral, but in this circumstance, it was meant to look orange.
Oh, yeah.
I actually thought this was such a nice jumper and it looked lovely on her. But the fact that it was coming on the 3rd day after days 1 and 2 of green and white just, calls to mind the tricolour.
Yeah, so this was what's now known as flag dressing. And I can tell you right here, right now, I hate it.
That's pretty tough. I'm a bit cynical about it. I guess we are paying a lot more attention to what Kate's wearing on this, because the relationship between Ireland and the UK is very fraught. Of course it's fraught when she goes to Pakistan or any of the other countries. That colonial history is inescapable, and how you pay homage to a country or the sartorial diplomacy in that respect speaks volumes. And clearly she felt that the best way to do that was to have this tribute to the Irish flag. And I personally feel like supporting Irish industry would have sent a much stronger message and would have gotten her a lot more coverage, because I know the fan accounts really picked up on this tricolour dressing, but we said it to my parents earlier, they didn't notice it at all, whereas they definitely knew that she wore the Dewberry jacket. And I think if she'd worn her Simone Rocha earrings, which she previously wore when they were in Poland, I think, a few years ago, you know, people would have definitely picked up on that. You know, Irish people, like people anywhere, are so proud of their local designers and local industry, and if she had done something to showcase an Irish designer, it would have gotten her much better press than this tricolour dressing, which seems designed to appease or to impress people from around the world who would recognise the Irish flag more than they would recognise, you know, a Louise Kennedy dress or a smaller Irish designer. But it's a pity because she did such a good job of that in Pakistan.
Yeah.
That was so recent, and it seemed like it marked a whole new chapter in Kate's royal tour dressing, and it was so nice and like so well received. People were raving about it, and we were raving about it, like everybody loved it. And then it just felt like such a letdown to have this, you know, when the relationship between Ireland and the UK is at such a crucial point right now, and they were coming to do a very important job, and it feels like she flubbed it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, also apparently she spent like over £26,000 on this.
Not including the Oscar de la Renta dress, which we don't have a price for. But most of that was those £17,000 earrings.
But that's like a lot of money she could have spent on Irish design.
Yeah, of course. And as well as that, you know, as we know, it has a ripple effect, and it would have drawn attention from people all over the world and brought so much new business to those smaller brands, which she's so good at doing and which she did in other countries. So it just feels like a real missed opportunity.
Speaking of opportunity, we finally got to see Meghan back in this country.
What a moment. Oh my God. When those pictures came in of Meghan on Thursday leaving the Goring Hotel looking absolutely sensational with her hair, like incredible blowout, beige, this like sort of camel coat, Alex Eagle coat, and then absolutely stunning shoes. These Aquazzura shoes, new from, by all accounts, black shoes with little pearl details on the straps. They were phenomenal shoes. Maybe her best ever shoes.
Yeah, they were great. People were obviously immediately angry because they said, why is she staying in this incredibly expensive hotel? But she wasn't there to stay. She had just had lunch there.
Yeah, they did stay in Frogmore Cottage, apparently. But the big story, obviously, was their appearance at the Endeavour Fund Awards, and that now iconic photo of them taken by Samir Hussain, who is a great photographer of royals and celebrities in general. If you don't follow him on Instagram, you definitely should. But this photo was a knockout.
So it's this stunning blue Victoria Beckham dress, and Harry is there beside her with an umbrella. They're surrounded by these luminous drops, raindrops glittering. They've set fire to the rain. They're stepping out of a fairy tale. They're blowing us all away.
I know. They've this like incredible moment where the flash of a camera behind them creates this sort of backlit effect, and it's just like something that you couldn't
plan it.
Yeah, it's like a total miracle basically, and really captured something that, you know, we talk about a lot and that fans of Harry and Meghan talk about a lot, and it's like what they have that no one else in the royal family has, this sexiness, this like stardust quality that, you know, can't really be articulated in words.
Yeah.
But with a picture like that, you know, it says 1,000 words.
And the front page has got 1,000 words richer because this photo was everywhere the next day.
Yeah, immediately went viral, rightly so. And yeah, you couldn't move for seeing it everywhere online, and then in the papers the next day. It was really notable, I thought, because we've been kind of paying attention to how the Irish tour had been covered. Like, one, because it was so important as like the first royal tour post-Brexit, but also because it was Kate and Will's first tour since Harry and Meghan had left, and we were kind of interested in how that would be covered. And like, yes, it got tons of coverage, and I was on all Kate was on all the front pages over in the Irish papers, but they got actually very little front page coverage in the British papers. They were on the Express one day, and they got tons inside, obviously, but the front page, which is what they want, obviously, was largely, you know, the first day you had the Queen wearing the gloves when she was handing out honours and amid all the coronavirus fears, and then you had the news about the Bond film being delayed, and those were such big stories that there was no room for Kate and Will, and I'm sure they weren't happy about that.
Yeah.
But then following up with, like, basically we've had 3 straight days of the Sussexes on the front pages, and, you know, it really speaks to this unique quality that they have. You know, obviously they're more than what they look like in pictures, but the power of that picture is totally undeniable. And, you know, it showcases so many different things, you know, the diversity and the energy and the vivacity that they have, as well as the glamour and the sexiness.
But despite all that, they did get booed by one person.
I mean, we don't even need to talk about that, but you can be sure it was reported on in basically every report of their appearance.
But in happier news from the night, there was a proposal on stage at the awards, which obviously Harry and Meghan were delighted about.
Yeah, there was really sweet pictures of them looking totally charmed by all this. And then Harry gave a speech. They both presented awards. Harry had prepared remarks, and Meghan, of course, spoke without notes, as she often does. Harry started by saying, "Meghan and I are so happy to be back with you." He also said, "Being able to serve Queen and country is something we all are rightly proud of, and it never leaves us. Once served, always serving," which a lot of people have taken to have a deeper meaning given their departure. And he also said, "A lot of you tonight have told me you have my back. Well, I'm also here to tell you I've always got yours." So again, reassuring people that they're leaving, but they're not going anywhere.
We learned on Friday that Meghan had spent her Thursday during the day prior to the blue dress moment at the immersive storytelling studio at the National Theatre. She's a patron of the National Theatre, so that's why she was there. And she spoke to singer Nubia Brandon and saw her hologram, which was featured in the National Theatre's exhibition All Kinds of Limbo. So the Evening Standard reported on it, and they said it uses holographic technology to take audiences on a musical journey to reflect the influence of West Indian and black culture on the UK music scene, and it's now on show at the Tate Modern.
I mean, I just think this is such an interesting engagement for Meghan to do, and, like, obviously it speaks to her interests, you know, it's not like it's, you know, pointed or whatever, but the fact that her first thing she did when she arrived was to go to an exhibition that was so heavily based in West Indian and black culture in the UK shows that, like, you know, she is somebody who is qualified to speak to these issues and who is so much more engaged with them, and that people can relate to so much more just by virtue of who she is. Which, you know, all of these engagements have been so bittersweet, because it's like, oh, we're so excited to see Meghan, but then also like, oh, it's like so sad that she can't just keep doing this.
It's like the better she does, the more we realise what we've lost.
But it also spoke to, like, why people were so annoyed about this, which we'll get onto in a moment, but that it was a private visit, and she did then give an exclusive picture to the Evening Standard. They said that she gave permission for them to have this exclusive photograph because she believes the studio and its work is so important to showcase. So, you know, we heard that the National Theatre has been a bit upset with Meghan, or not been happy with how the departure news had unfolded and whether she would continue on as patron and what she could do for them. And they apparently were putting pressure on to make this engagement public, to draw more attention to it. So there were all sorts of things going on, but we do know that she had it photographed by Chris Allerton, who took Harry and Meghan's wedding photos and also Archie's christening photos, and that the usual, you know, Royal Rhoda were not there. It was just Robert Jobson at the Evening Standard who got the exclusive on it. But
she did post it on Instagram.
Yeah, and this is where the trouble begins. But, you know, let's just take a step back. You know, what else was going on Friday? Friday was a pretty busy day, actually. You know, Prince Harry had an engagement where he was opening the Silverstone Museum for Motor Racing with Lewis Hamilton. we should note, like, there was a little bit of snarkiness because of how he opened his speech by saying, I'll keep this brief. There's nothing better than officially opening a building that is very much open, because the museum actually opened at the end of October. But this was the official opening with Harry and Lewis Hamilton. Very exciting. So, you know, I wouldn't call that a particularly low-key engagement if you have, like, a celebrity there as well. It's not meant to be that quiet. We also saw Will and Kate sharing a very romantic picture of the two of them with their arms around each other in Ireland when they were taking that walk on Howth Cliff on Friday to thank everybody for their hospitality during their Ireland visit. I mean, this picture was particularly interesting to me because we had seen the back version of it, because photographers had tried to go and take the picture themselves, but the social media team had, like, shooed them away because they just wanted this as a Kensington Royal exclusive. And I wondered about them posting it the day after that sensational umbrella rain pic of Harry and Meghan was everywhere. And, you know, it's a pity because it's such a lovely picture of Kate and Will. We don't often see them, you know, posing with their arms around each other and having that very, you know, intimate touching. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's not that intimate, but, you know, it was quite a nice tender moment between them. And it felt like possibly might have been some sort of competition there, or it seemed like quite curious timing to me.
Yeah, it was a bit of a misstep. Like, if they'd waited a month or, you know, maybe longer, a year, then they wouldn't have had these comparisons. And, you know, that was just such a phenomenal photo of Harry and Meghan that it's very difficult to win that.
But yes, so both of these things happened on Friday, as well as Meghan's engagement. But what nobody knew was that Friday was actually Camilla's day on the calendar.
And there had been a memo because Buckingham Palace has sent out an email that said, please note that media arrangements have been designed specifically with a view to allowing royal correspondents to focus on the Duchess of Cornwall's engagement on Friday.
This engagement was a long-planned speech on domestic violence that Camilla gave at the 10th anniversary of the Women of the World Festival in London, where she spoke, you know, in the way that she often does. There is a certain detachment in it. You know, it wasn't a particularly memorable speech. It, you know, it hit all the right notes, but there wasn't anything front page worthy in it. You know, not that Camilla ever really does anything that lands her on the front page.
Which is clearly why they have to go to apparently great lengths to stop everybody else from doing anything so that she can get some airtime, because they know that she's not making it for herself.
We did get her on the front page, though, of the Mirror with the headline, Meghan at war with Camilla. Huge blown up pic of the Instagram, like fuzzy Instagram picture of Meghan at the National Theatre, and teeny tiny thumbnail size picture of Camilla.
Looking grumpy.
And we had a snarky little source saying, of course it was known Harry and Meghan would be doing engagements this week, some privately, but everyone was in agreement that Camilla's speech should take precedence. Unfortunately, some people had other ideas. So supposedly Camilla was very upset and even furious that Meghan had demanded her photos from the National Theatre were posted on the same day as Camilla's big speech. She felt she was being overshadowed. Here we go again.
Yeah. I mean, it's not entirely clear why she wasn't furious with Harry or furious with Will and Kate, except it is pretty clear because the rules are different for Meghan.
I mean, it's so stark. You know, you'd think the idea of the Cambridges posting a very rare picture of them with their arms around each other would be a lot more of a headline grabber or a front page kind of picture than these, honestly, like, not amazing photos of Meghan with a hologram.
Yeah. But,
you know, people pinned it on Meghan in this, like, really inflammatory piece about the two of them. And, like, you know, at the same time, all this really violent language in a story about domestic violence is really tasteless. just like all the things about this are so thorny. And, you know, I would have thought it was just a smart social media strategy to have, you know, the Endeavour Fund Awards pictures on the Thursday, and then the National Theatre pictures on the Friday, and the Friday evening you have something else. And, you know, that you had it spaced out so that you could give due credit to the very important work that you're doing, especially if you're under pressure from the National Theatre, who feel like you're not doing the work they want you to be doing as the patron, that you give them, you know, a full day.
Yeah, you give them a bit of space where, you know, they're not being overshadowed by the first photos of you in the country. They're not being overshadowed by, well, very, very glam photos. There might still have been a bit of a hangover from the night before with that one. But, you know, you give them space to breathe. But no, obviously, that's not good enough, Meghan. But we got a really unusual glimpse of Kate for the first time since returning from Ireland. And this really had alarm bells going off for me. So she was caught outside a Waterstones on Saturday by paparazzi. This was near Kensington Palace, and she was coming out with a big bulging bag of books.
Yeah, Waterstones is a bookshop here, and apparently Kate had asked staff for history and military themed books for children.
So weird. So weird for that, the first thing you ask for when you come back from Ireland. Like, my future king son needs as many books about how to plan an invasion.
No, Tom. But just everything about this was so strange to me. Like, you know, I was trying to think back to when was the last time we saw paparazzi photos of Kate, because they usually have an agreement where they don't take pap pics of Kate because she was harassed by paparazzi photographers when she was dating Will, and she had a very hard time with being hounded and stuff. So they reached an agreement about it, and, you know, I feel like the last time we saw paparazzi pics of her was when her and Will took that Flybe flight to Balmoral during the summer amidst all the Harry and Meghan private jet drama, which Tom and I also feel was staged and had been designed for them to be papped. But it did make me wonder, were these pictures staged? Like, the fact that she was wearing such a bright outfit as well.
In such a similar shade of blue to Meghan's dress.
Hair done, you know.
Opening her own car door.
It was all just...
She was pulling out all the stops.
Yeah, and it was so disappointing to me. Like, I really don't like to think of Kate getting involved with this kind of petty competitiveness that we, you know, believe that Will is involved with. And I wouldn't like to think that she is ringing up the paps and getting pictures taken in a very similar shade to what Meghan wore, looking really good. Like, all of it just seemed pretty ugly, honestly.
Yeah, it left a bad taste in my mouth, which I have to say was entirely then banished by some incredible photos from the Mountbatten Music Festival at the Royal Albert Hall.
I didn't think I would ever really care about a military music festival, but Meghan showing up looking like a total movie star, like the embodiment of glamour.
Yeah.
Has she ever looked so glamorous?
And I mean, Harry, he looked great in his military uniform. It's sadly probably the last time he's going to be putting that uniform on. But the way her dress picked up the exact shade of red that was in his and the other soldiers' uniforms, it was like a master stroke of styling. She looked incredible.
Yeah, so everybody's seen this dress by now. It was a red cape dress by Sophia and another London designer. You probably remember when she wore that blue caped dress by Sophia on the tour down under, and that was like another like major moment. And this time, well, she wasn't pregnant, so she had a much slimmer silhouette with a more narrow train at the back and a lot of leg, and as well as that, she wore matching red clutch and red shoes. Some people thought that was a bit bridesmaidy, but I was trying to think of what shoes I would sub in instead and kind of struggling. As well as that, Simone Rocha earrings. Absolutely love these earrings.
Yeah.
Very unroyal, very, very cool, very modern. Thought they looked great. Also, couldn't help but notice that in the 2 days that she was back in the UK, she actually wore more Irish designers than the whole of Kate's tour, and reminded both of us, oh, Kate actually has a very similar pair of red Simone Rocha earrings that she could have worn in Ireland. Anyway, I'll stop going on about that. Obviously, I'm taking it very personally. But yes, I thought this was such a bold, such a photogenic look, and it was really clever, I thought, because it had, you know, the clean lines that Meghan loves and very vibrant colour. But when she went inside, she actually like blended in with all the other people wearing those red uniforms. So it wasn't like she was trying to distract, or she wasn't pulling focus from all the other people that were there. So when she was walking in, it was like, oh my God, all eyes on her. But then when she was inside, she did like fit in with everyone else. Didn't stand out as much.
They got a standing ovation for a full minute, and that was just us not even there when we saw the photos. But no, they got a standing ovation from the audience.
Yeah, that was really nice. And there was like a video going around, like a close-up of the two of them holding hands, and like it was like, you know, if you're romantic like we are, then it was just so sweet. Harry seemed to be like getting a little bit emotional.
I mean, it's really good to see a standing ovation and like that kind of response from military people for Harry, because I feel like there's been some kind of campaign for us to believe that the military is turning their back on him. So
we should say that he was there as Captain General of the Royal Marines, which is one of the titles that he will be stripped of from the end of the month. So it is probably the last time he's going to wear this uniform, which is sad because he looks so good in it.
Yeah.
Little update. Meghan told somebody there that Archie is trying to walk.
Yeah. He's got to be prepared.
But Tom, we didn't even mention that when she went to the National Theatre, she wore all white. She wore a white Topshop blouse and white Roland Murray skirt with those killer Aquazzura heels that we were talking about. Those were black, and the bag was black. Loewe bag, whose creative director, Jonathan Anderson, is from Derry, Irish. Anyway, the timing of the photo release makes it blue, white, red.
Which, you know, it's a very obvious what flag this is referring to. The French flag. This is the French Revolution. She's ready to guillotine these aristocrats.
So we got some more flag dressing.
Yeah.
But what flag?
Well, it's very clever way of flag dressing. I still don't like flag dressing, so even though Meghan is doing her very best to make me like it, because all the outfits I loved so much, it's a very clever way of doing it, because this could be the American flag, this could be the British flag, this could even be a reference to the flag of the territory of British Columbia in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, there's layers to it in a way the Irish flag dressing doesn't really have.
Yeah.
And you know, the fact that Meghan will be dividing her time between these countries, you know.
Also that she thinks of coming to England as doing a, like, royal tour.
But on to today, International Women's Day, Sunday, we finally learned what Meghan had been doing during the day on Friday. She had visited the Robert Clack Upper School in East London. So just to do quick, like, interesting things about the outfit. It wasn't particularly flaggish, but everything she was wearing was designed by a woman. So she had a boucle jacket by Me and M, these heels, gorgeous two-tone leather pumps, lovely nude and black by Jennifer Tremondy. The top was Lavender Hill. Don't know what the trousers were, but I wondered were they maybe the Smartworks trousers.
Ooh, yeah.
And a very cool bag by Regina Pio, a London designer. But it was such a, like, an it bag, like this kind of slouchy, pouchy type of bag. She looked great. And she was, again, speaking without notes to all of these students, where she said no matter how small you might feel, no matter what colour you are, no matter what gender you are, you have a voice and you certainly have the right to speak up for what is right. She also spoke about the importance of protecting the women in your life. Something that rang some bells for us.
Yeah, that sounded like she had something specific in mind.
While she was there, she watched a debating class and a lesson on female poets and talked about Maya Angelou, and she walked along a path lined with 250 pupils. The reaction from some of these students was so sweet. They were so excited to meet Meghan.
Yeah.
And it was such a bummer, like, thinking about how many more kids would love to meet Meghan. You know, also while she was there, she met Geraldine Deer, who was one of the women who took part in the 1984 strike for equal pay at the Ford factory in Dagenham. So, you know, there was two prongs, I guess, to that in terms of the Equal Pay Act, and then as well meeting the young women who are the future.
On actual Sunday, Harry and Meghan maybe had a less exciting time. They went to church with the Queen, but they arrived in different cars, and we didn't get any pap shots of them walking in. Don't know why we didn't get any pictures of that when we definitely got pictures of her and Andrew walking into the church the day after Harry and Meghan released their statements.
I know, it's very unusual because, like, they did have a source who was going to people talking about how it was such a sweet gesture of the Queen to invite them to church, but we didn't actually see them interacting at all.
Yeah, show, don't tell.
Also, I'd like to see more of Meghan's outfit. I think it was a Givenchy dress and a fascinator, it looked like.
Fascinating.
Exactly.
So on to our quote of the week.
So mine, we posted this already on Instagram, but I thought we'd just talk a little bit about it because it seemed to be provoking a lot of debate. The author, Hilary Mantel, has a new book out, and she did an interview with Harper's Bazaar where she talked about Harry and Meghan a little bit. She said, "I'm pleased that it's the marriage that is surviving and the connection with the monarchy that has to go, because I think almost all of us would have bet that if she left, she'd have to leave alone," which is so true.
Yeah.
And I like seeing somebody high profile saying that. None of us know the details of how this is going to work out, but I think that Meghan was too good to be true. She was a smiling face in a dull institution. She cheered the nation up no end, or at least men and women of goodwill. I do think abominable racism has been involved. People who say that's got nothing to do with it, well, they need to check their privilege. Again, so true. I know some people were a little bit annoyed that she said a smiling face, like, oh, she's more than a smiling face. But I think she also made some comments about Kate a few years ago that people were very angry about, and they called her, like, bitter and all these kinds of things. But she said that how she was talking about Kate was Kate as a symbol and what Kate represents in the structure of the monarchy, which is obviously her area of expertise in her writing. And I think that's what she was trying to do with Meghan as well, in terms of describing her as a smiling face in a dull institution. She wasn't saying she's just a smiling face.
It was more to, like, highlight the dullness of the institution.
Yeah.
Really. And
what about you?
I really liked, at that school visit, she invited one brave young man from the audience to go up to the stage to speak about why International Women's Day was important to him. So Aka Okoye, I'm really sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, he's only 16 years old. He took up this challenge and he motored onto the podium, got up there really quickly, and he told his friends,
"She really is beautiful, isn't it?"
And you see this great video of Meghan kind of mock wagging her finger at him, like, this isn't the way to start your International Women's Day speech.
I know.
But it was, like, a really sweet moment, I thought.
I know. I was a little bit disappointed with how they framed it when Sussex Royal posted it on Instagram, because, I mean, there was a lot of discussion about how when he was going up to the stage, it looked as if he had given her a kiss on the cheek. And some of the more pearl clutchy royal watchers were outraged that he would presume to kiss the Duchess.
Yeah.
And as well saying that Meghan was, like, flirting with teenagers and all this kind of nonsense. So Sussex Royal posted a clip from the side showing that they just kind of leaned into each other. They didn't touch at all their faces. Sussex Royal posted this with the caption, "Whilst much attention has been focused on his initial comment, what he shared beyond that was compelling and true," which kind of sounds a little bit like, now, don't you talk about that nice moment at the start. Like, you're paying attention to the wrong thing. Like, this is what we want you to talk about, not that bit at the start. Even though it was a nice moment. And he said afterwards, like, I didn't mean to objectify her. It was just meant to be an icebreaker. And she really is beautiful. And it like Meghan laughed and looked like, you know, it was funny, but then I don't know, they kind of soured it a little bit, I thought.
Well, it's probably quite clear to everybody who our fit for a queen is going to be.
There's just no competition. Meghan in that red Sophia dress is the best she's looked since her wedding day. She looked so glamorous, so gorgeous, so healthy, so happy, and just such a beautiful dress, like so simple. You know, so much of her royal clothes have been very neutral, very toned down, very quiet, while at the same time often being outrageously expensive custom designer pieces. And this seemed to me to be so much truer to her personal style. You know, maybe she really does love wearing all those beige clothes that are not terribly exciting, but it seemed like she's really leaning into the glamour and re-embracing that after maybe trying to dial it back while she was a member of the royal family. Now it's kind of like she's got no fucks left to give, and she's like, look, I'm just going to look like exquisite in front of all of you and show you all what you're going to miss.
Yeah, I mean, having no fucks left to give is exactly the quality we want in our first in line as well. So that goes to Meghan, and she's left us wanting more, which is the best place you can ever be in. It's a really strong, lasting impression for this final visit as a working member of the royal family.
I think, yeah, in her final few engagements, she's really shown what she is uniquely positioned to do as a member of the royal family in terms of meeting with the black artist and uplifting the black school children and
stealing thunder from Camilla.
But in doing that, she is showing her power as, you know, what she could have brought to the royal family and what they could have had. And Omid Scobie, the royal commentator, posted on Twitter a picture of Meghan with the children of the school and showing like all the things that she could bring to the family that they were now losing in terms of diversity and inclusion and
excitement,
relevance, like, and modernity and representation, all of this stuff that the other members just don't have.
There isn't a single other member of the royal family who is a game changer like she is.
And she just seems so genuine about it. But today, Monday, if you're listening to this today, we've got the momentous Commonwealth service where we will finally see the whole gang back together for the first time since Harry and Meghan have announced they're leaving the family. So Judy James and Tom and I will all be watching this like hawks to see how they interact or don't interact.
Yeah, I want to see if Meghan's standing next to Camilla. I want body language experts at every possible angle to tell me what their relationship is like.
But we will have more on that next week, and we hope you come back and join us. In the meantime, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at AirheadsPod and on Facebook at Airheads.
If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star review and tell a friend.
And have a great week.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Agwini Ushla.